Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're counting down the top 5 most valuable Jefferson nickels, from rare varieties to unique errors. Stick around to see which coins collectors are searching for and how much they can really be worth in today's market. First coin, the 1970 Jefferson nickel, large date variety, with a small D mint mark and the bold claim that this coin could be worth $170,000 in today's auction market, even in circulated, scratched, fine condition. Whether you're new to coin collecting or you've been hunting rare coins for years, this story is packed with history, mystery, real market insight, and critical lessons about how coin values are actually determined. The Jefferson nickel was introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. The design features President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his home, Monticello, on the reverse. Throughout the decades, the Jefferson nickel series has been rich with interesting varieties, die errors, and collectible anomalies, things that can make an ordinary 5-cent coin far more valuable than face value. The 1970 nickel, struck at the Denver Mint, carries the small D mint mark. That alone tells us where it was made, but for collectors, the story goes much deeper. It's the large date variety designation that makes this coin stand out. Varieties like large date versus small date occur when different dies are used that alter the size or style of the date numerals, and in some series, these varieties become highly collectible. However, before we continue, it's absolutely essential to understand how coin values are determined in real-world markets. Coin collecting isn't just about rumors or hopeful listings on social media. True value is based on documented auction sales, professional grading certification, verified rarity, and collector demand. Without these, a number like $170,000 remains speculation, and there's a big difference between a hopeful asking price and what the market will actually pay when the hammer falls at a reputable auction. Let's start with the basics. In 1970, the Denver Mint struck many millions of Jefferson nickels, and the large date variety is not necessarily extremely rare in uncirculated condition. For many years, collectors have noted slight differences in the date numerals, what some call large date versus small date. But those differences are often subtle and require careful comparison with reliable reference images and known examples. For a variety to truly be collectible and valuable, it must be clearly documented, accepted in major numismatic references, and verified by a third-party certification service like PCGS or NGC. Otherwise, it remains a curiosity, not a high-value rarity. Now let's talk about condition. In coin grading, circulated means the coin has been used in everyday transactions. A circulated nickel will show where on the high points of the design, Jefferson's cheek, Monticello's columns, and the rims will be smoothed down. Fine condition is a mid-level grade. The coin is worn, but major design elements are still visible. Most circulated Jefferson nickels, even in nice condition, are worth a few cents to a few dollars to collectors, depending on the eye appeal and demand. For a coin in this condition to be worth a 5-figure sum, let alone $170,000, something extraordinary must be going on. That something could be a dramatic error. For example, a major double die, an off-center strike, or a severely misaligned planchet. These types of errors can and do command premiums because they are real anomalies created during the minting process. A coin struck off-center significantly, or one struck on the wrong planchet, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But even then, for a 1970 Jefferson nickel, most documented error sales in fine or even uncirculated condition stay well below the tens of thousands range unless they are utterly unique or among very few known examples. When we look at auction history, the highest sale prices for Jefferson nickels generally come from very early issues, pre-war coins, certain key dates like the 1939 D and dramatic error pieces, not from a typical 1970 large date specimen in circulated condition. Auction databases like PCGS Price Guide and Heritage Auctions show that high-grade uncirculated 1970 nickels can bring good premiums, but they rarely command extraordinary prices on their own. Coins with dramatic errors do better, but market-verified sales approaching the $170,000 mark for a circulated 1970 nickel simply do not exist in reputable auction archives. So, why do some people talk about these huge values? One major reason is misunderstanding or misrepresentation. Online listings may show a coin labeled as rare or worth $100,000 plus, but an asking price is not a realized sale. Just because someone lists a coin at a high price doesn't mean a buyer ever paid or would pay that amount. Real value only comes from documented sales where actual money changed hands in a competitive bidding environment. If a collector truly has something remarkable, for example, a dramatic double die obverse or a major mint error that has been authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC, then that coin should be submitted for professional certification. A grading service will evaluate the coin, verify that the error is genuine, and encapsulate the coin in a tamper-evident holder with a grade and variety designation. That certificate and holder are crucial for serious collectors who might consider bidding at auction. Once a coin is certified, it can be offered at reputable auctions, places like Heritage, Great Collections, or Stack's Bowers, where collectors from around the world compete to buy rare pieces. Auction results are recorded and become part of the historical market data that other collectors and dealers trust. That's how we know what coins are truly worth. Without these records, claims of six-figure values remain unsupported. Let's imagine for a minute that a dramatic, previously undiscovered error is found on a 1970 Jefferson nickel, something so unusual that experts agree it's unique or nearly unique in the entire series. In that rare scenario, collectors might compete fiercely to acquire it, and the price could climb significantly. That could lead to a high auction result, possibly even approaching extremely high values, but only if the coin meets several conditions. It must be real, it must be authenticated, and it must be sought after by serious collectors. Even then, there is no guarantee of a $170,000 sale, only the possibility based on collector competition. Another important point is that modern coins generally have much higher mintages compared to classic coins from the 19th or early 20th century. When millions of coins exist, rarity is harder to achieve unless a very small number were struck with an error or a unique die. Next coin, the 1979 Jefferson nickel. Large date variety. A front small don't mint mark, circulated and showing signs of wear, scratches, and fine condition, yet claimed by some to be worth an astounding $145,000 in today's auction market. This story is fascinating not just because of the number, but because it opens up a real conversation about how coins become valuable, how the market actually works, what collectors look for, and why some rumors take on a life of their own. Whether you're just curious or you're deep into coin collecting, this video will help you separate myth from reality while learning how rare coins are really valued. The Jefferson nickel is one of America's most enduring coins. First introduced in 1938, it replaced the Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, the coin features President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia home, on the reverse. Over the decades, the Jefferson nickel series has become a favorite for collectors because of the many varieties, errors, and interesting die differences that occur throughout its long mintage. But before we get carried away by dollar figures, let's take a careful look at the facts. In 1979, the U.S. Mint produced millions of Jefferson nickels. These were everyday coins, meant to be spent, saved in jars, dropped in fountains, and passed from hand to hand millions of times. Many of the 1979 nickels were struck without any mint mark due to changes in minting practices during that period. That's what some people refer to when describing this coin as front small don't about mint mark, meaning the absence of a mint mark. However, collectors use specific terminology to describe varieties, and it's important we're all talking about the same thing. The so-called large date variety refers to subtle differences in the size or position of the date numerals when compared to the more common small date versions. These can be interesting to specialists, but not every variation is automatically worth large sums of money. Now, let's talk about condition. The term circulated means the coin has been used in day-to-day commerce. People have carried it in pockets, in change trays, dropped it, rubbed it against other coins, all of which creates wear. When we describe a coin in fine condition, we mean it still holds its basic design details, but the highest points are worn. On a Jefferson nickel, that could mean Jefferson's cheek and hair are flatter, and the columns of Monticello are less distinct. Many collectors consider fine a respectable grade for a circulated coin, but it's certainly not in like new condition. So where does the claim of $145,000 come from? Before you imagine washing change and dreaming of big money, it's critical to understand how coin values are really determined. In the coin collecting world, real value comes from documented auction sales, third-party grading verification, and collector demand for documented rarity. Ask prices online, meaning what someone hopes to get for a coin, are not the same as sale prices. True market value is what a willing buyer will pay a willing seller in an open auction environment. Major graders like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, examine coins and assign them grades based on condition. They also verify varieties when genuine and significant differences are present. Once a coin is certified by these services, it becomes much easier to track its actual market history, because auction houses will record sale results. That's how collectors know what coins truly sell for. For the 1979 Jefferson nickel, even large date varieties are not commonly listed as high-value rarities in standard numismatic references. Most collector guides discuss differences in die varieties, but these usually only carry modest premiums, especially for coins in circulated condition. Unlike famous rarities, such as the 1950D Jefferson nickel or the 1939D with no mint mark, which have well-established collector demand due to low surviving populations, the 1979 large date variety is not widely regarded as a key date. The only situations where a circulated 1979 Jefferson nickel could approach extraordinary value is if the coin has a major minting error, something dramatically uncommon, and this error has been authenticated and certified. Examples include severe double strikes, off-center strikes of extraordinary degree, wrong planchet errors, or die breaks that produce unique characteristics. Coins with these dramatic errors tend to attract interest from error collectors and can bring significantly higher prices at auction. That said, even the most dramatic error nickels from the late 20th century typically sell in the thousands or low tens of thousands, unless the error is truly unique and widely recognized. Talking about $145,000 for a circulated 1979 nickel means believing that a truly exceptional error or extremely rare variety exists, and that it has been verified in the marketplace. As of today's available auction records and credible numismatic databases, there are no verified sales of a circulated 1979 Jefferson nickel fetching $145,000. Instead, the most valuable Jefferson nickels in the modern era tend to be error coins or high-grade uncirculated pieces, and even those rarely approach six-figure results. One reason for this is simple economics. The 1979 Jefferson nickel was struck in massive numbers, far more than the very limited rarities found in early U.S. coinage. When millions of coins exist, rarity is harder to achieve. Even with die varieties, the number of known examples usually runs into thousands or more. Collectors value rarity based on surviving population, and unless a true rarity can be documented by grading services and auction results, premiums remain modest. Another reason is demand. Serious collectors compete aggressively for coins with well-documented rarity or historical significance. That collector competition drives prices. But for a coin to reach six figures, demand must far exceed supply, and supply must be extremely limited. That's what happens with classic rarities like the 1804 silver dollar, the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, or key-date Morgan dollars. These coins are historically significant, genuinely rare, and backed by long histories of documented sales. In contrast, the 1979 large-date Jefferson nickel, while interesting to specialists, does not yet have that level of documented rarity or collector demand. That's not to say that some examples aren't worth more than face value. They are. Collectors pay premiums for coins in superior condition or for specific die varieties. But you'll typically see values in the range of a few dollars to low hundreds, depending on condition and collector interest, not $145,000. If you believe you have such a coin, the first step is comparison. Compare your nickel to high-quality reference images from reputable sources. Look closely at the date. Is it truly a recognized large date variety, and are the differences dramatic? Next, examine the coin for error characteristics. Does it show doubling, severe off-center strike, or any unusual features? If you think the coin is truly unique, you can submit it to a major grading service. Submitting a coin for third-party certification is a process. Professionals will examine the coin, verify its authenticity, evaluate its condition, and determine if any error or variety is present. If they confirm something remarkable, the coin will be slabbed, sealed in a protective holder with its grade and variety designation. Next coin, the 1987 Jefferson nickel, 5-cent coin, large date variety with a front small D mint mark, a coin said by some to be worth as much as $130,000 in today's auction market, even in circulated, scratched, fine condition. This topic blends coin history, market reality, legendary rarity claims, and the very real process by which numismatists determine value. Whether you're here out of curiosity or you're serious about coins, this video script will walk you through every angle of this fascinating story with clarity and honesty. The Jefferson nickel has been a staple of American coinage since it was first introduced in 1938. Designed by Felix Schlag, the coin features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his Virginia home, Monticello, on the reverse. Over decades of production, this series has produced a wide range of varieties, die differences, minting anomalies, and error coins, all of which are the things that can turn a routine 5-cent piece into something collectors seek eagerly. In 1987, the United States Mint struck millions of Jefferson nickels, most of which entered everyday circulation. These coins were spent, saved, lost, wrapped in rolls, and lived lives in pockets and registers across the country. The majority of those coins were ordinary examples, the ones most of us have seen hundreds of times without a second thought. But within any large production run, subtle differences can occur, sometimes producing what collectors call varieties. Examples where the date numerals, mint mark position, or other design elements appear slightly different from the norm. One such variety that has drawn attention in collector circles is the so-called large date. This term refers to a version of the coin where the date numerals appear larger, bolder, or differently spaced compared to the standard run. Some collectors claim that the combination of a large date and a front small D mint mark, meaning the D from the Denver Mint appears in a particular small forward position, creates a distinct variety that is highly collectible. But we need to be very clear here. A variety in numismatics only becomes valuable when it is recognized, documented, and verified by experts, and when there is collector demand backed by actual auction results. So let's dissect this carefully. First, what does circulated fine condition mean? Coin grading transforms how we talk about condition. A coin that has been used in everyday commerce, rubbed against other coins, scratched from handling, with original luster worn away, is described as circulated. In the hobby, detailed numeric grades like fine, very fine, extremely fine describe the amount of wear. A coin in fine condition shows noticeable wear, with major design details still visible but softened. This is a common grade for coins that have been actively used rather than stored in collections. Now, why do some people talk about a value as high as $130,000 for a circulated 1987 Jefferson nickel? The short answer is that speculative claims and asking prices sometimes float around online, but they are not the same as verified market values. In the world of coin collecting, real value is determined by what a coin actually sells for in a recognized auction environment where collectors compete openly. Auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, or Great Collections keep historical records of realized prices, what collectors have paid with real money. That's the benchmark for true market value, not hopeful listings or sensational speculation. For most Jefferson nickels from the late 20th century, including 1987 issues, standard circulated examples trade at modest premiums over face value, sometimes just a few cents, sometimes a few dollars if they have nice eye appeal. Even coins graded in high uncirculated condition, like MS65 or MS66, seldom command prices that reach into the tens of thousands unless they have significant rarity or well-documented errors. And the key phrase here is well-documented. For a numismatic community to accept a variety as valuable, there must be consistent recognition in reference catalogs and verified examples accepted by grading services, such as PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company. Collectors sometimes report finding subtle differences between coins struck during high production runs. But subtle differences alone do not create enormous value unless they represent something truly rare, and that rarity must be verified. For example, famous rare coins like the 1950D Jefferson nickel with a double die obverse or the 1939D no mint mark variety have established collector demand because they are historically scarce and widely recognized. They have been studied, certified, and referenced across decades, and their auction results support that significance. By contrast, a 1987 nickel with a large date and a particular mint mark position has not achieved that level of documented rarity in major numismatic references. That doesn't mean interesting varieties don't exist. They do, but they must be authenticated and certified before you can attach meaningful market value. A coin that is merely labeled rare on a marketplace listing is not the same thing as a coin with verified rarity backed by grading certification and auction results. To approach a value anywhere near $130,000, a circulated coin would likely need to have undergone some remarkable anomaly during striking, something like a dramatic double die, a major off-center strike, a significantly misaligned planchet, or perhaps a wrong planchet strike. These kinds of errors can be stunning to behold and can be worth serious money. But even then, the coin must be graded, authenticated, and sell in a competitive auction to validate that price. Auction dynamics matter enormously. A coin offered in a major auction with multiple interested bidders can climb in price. When two or more serious collectors want the same unique coin, the price can escalate quickly. But the key driver is collector demand backed by documented rarity and certification. That's what separates valuable coins from ordinary ones. So what should someone do if they think they have one of these so-called rare 1987 large date, small d mint mark nickels? First, comparison is crucial. Compare your coin to high-quality reference images from reliable numismatic sources. Look closely at the size and shape of the date numerals, the position and size of the mint mark, and other specific die features. Next, consult experienced collectors or a reputable coin dealer who understands Jefferson nickel varieties. They can help assess whether what you have really differs from standard examples. If it appears truly unusual, consider submitting the coin to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. During that process, experts will evaluate whether the coin represents a recognized variety or error, assign an official grade for condition, and encapsulate the coin in a protective holder with a label. That grading certification becomes critical if you plan to sell or enter the coin in competitive auctions. Next coin, the 1983 Jefferson nickel, 5-cent coin, large date variety, with a front small P mint mark. A coin some people talk about as if it's worth $180,000 in today's auction market, even in circulated, scratched, fine condition. Before we go any further, I want you to understand that this video is about real knowledge, real numismatics, and real market understanding, not hype or rumors. We're going to look closely at how values are determined, what makes a coin rare, and how the market works when it comes to modern coins like this one. Whether you're a beginner, an intermediate collector, or someone who found this coin in pocket change and wants to know if it's truly valuable, this video will give you clear insight and context. Let's start with the coin itself, the Jefferson nickel. This coin has been part of everyday American commerce since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. The design features a portrait of President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and the image of his historic home, Monticello, on the reverse. Over decades of minting, the Jefferson nickel series has developed a strong following among collectors because of the many die varieties, mint errors, and historical oddities that can show up within large production runs. These are the things that sometimes turn a coin from a common 5-cent piece into something significantly more interesting. When we talk about the 1983 Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark, we are referring to a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The P mint mark identifies its origin and often plays a role in how collectors categorize and value coins. Some collectors refer to this particular variety as the large date with a front small P mint mark, meaning the size or style of the date numerals appears different from what many standard examples show, and that the P mint mark appears in a certain subtle position. But here's the critical point. Not all differences are valuable, and in order for a variety to be worth significant money, it must be widely recognized and documented by experts, and it must be verified through the numismatic market. Now, let's talk condition. When we say a coin is in circulated, fine condition, we mean it has been used in everyday commerce for a long period of time. It's been in wallets, drawers, jars of change, and pockets. That where shows up as scratches, flattening of the highest design points, and loss of the original mint luster. A coin in fine condition has noticeable wear, yet the major design features remain recognizable. It's not crisp, like an uncirculated cancer-free specimen, but it still tells its story. So, how does a circulated 1983 Jefferson nickel go from being worth 5 cents, the face value, to a reported $180,000? A number like that is dramatic, and it gets people's attention. But real coin values are based on documented sales, professional grading, and collector demand. A claimed value is not the same thing as a verified auction result. In the coin world, what really matters is what serious collectors will actually pay when a coin is offered in a competitive setting, such as a respected auction house. Listing prices on marketplaces or rumors on social media do not equate to real market value. Professional coin grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, are the gold standard in the hobby. When they certify and slab a coin, They provide an expert grade and can also identify whether a coin represents a recognized variety or error. That grading and certification make it possible for coins to be confidently traded and auctioned with trust. Auction houses such as Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections record sale prices that give collectors real data on how much coins are selling for. This is the foundation of true coin value. For modern coins like the 1983 Jefferson nickel, even with a large date variety, millions were struck. That means the base population of these coins is huge. Big mintage numbers alone do not create rarity. Within that large population, there can be minor die variations, slight differences in the date numerals or mint figures. But small differences only become valuable if they are extremely scarce and verified as a collectible variety that can take decades of study and wide acceptance by numismatists to be confirmed and cataloged. Unless that has happened and the coin has been authenticated, high speculative numbers like $180,000 should be approached skeptically. The real value drivers for coins are rarity, demand, condition, and documentation. All four must be strong for a coin value to climb significantly. For classic rarities, like the 1913 Liberty Head nickel or the 1804 silver dollar, these conditions are all met. These coins are historically scarce, iconic, widely documented, and highly demanded by collectors. That is why they can sell for millions. For modern coins like this Jeff nickel, absence of widespread documentation of extreme rarity means most examples have only modest collector value. Even when modern coins have errors, such as off-center strikes, double strikes, wrong planchet errors, or dramatic die breaks, these can sometimes attract collector interest and sell for higher amounts. But even then, the most dramatic modern error nickels tend to sell in the thousands or possibly low tens of thousands range, not the six-figure range, unless the coin is truly unique in the world and widely recognized as such. So if someone claims you have a 1983 Jefferson nickel worth $180,000, what should you do? The first thing is not to panic or get swept up in excitement. Instead, carefully examine whether the coin has any actual documented rarity. Compare it with verified images from trusted numismatic references. Look for dramatic differences, not just subtle cosmetic ones. If something truly unusual stands out, such as a dramatic double die or a significant mint error, then the next step is professional evaluation. Take your coin to a reputable coin dealer or submit it directly to a third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC. These services will examine the coin, assign an official grade, and determine whether the variety or error is recognized. If the coin is authenticated as a true, rare variety with strong demand, then it can be slabbed and possibly sold at auction. But without that certification, the market will be hesitant to pay a premium, much less six figures. Even with professional certification, the final value is determined by what buyers bid in an actual auction. Auction results are objective, public records of real market transactions, not hopeful listings or speculative numbers. That's why collectors rely on auction archives when researching coin values. These archives tell us what real buyers have actually paid for coins under competitive conditions. That's the only reliable way to know true market value. There are indeed extraordinary stories in numismatics. Coins that were once considered common have been rediscovered as rare errors and later sold for significant amounts. Those stories are part of what makes coin collecting exciting. But each extraordinary case is backed by documentation, professional certification, and verified auction results. That's the difference between a hopeful rumor and a market-accepted rarity. The 2007 Jefferson nickel 5-cent coin, large date variety with a front small p mint mark, in circulated extra fine condition, and a discussion you may have heard, that this coin could be worth $80,000 or more in today's auction market. Whether you're just curious, you found one in your pocket change, or you're a seasoned collector seeking deeper knowledge, this video will take you through the real story, the numismatic truth, and how modern coin values are genuinely established. The Jefferson nickel has been a mainstay of American coinage since 1938. Designed by Felix Schlag, the coin features President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his historic home, Monticello, on the reverse. Across decades of production, millions, and eventually billions, of these coins were struck for everyday use. As a result, most Jefferson nickels are common and worth only their face value of 5 cents. But within large mintage coins, subtle differences occasionally show up, differences that attract collectors, spark debate, and sometimes cause remarkable pricing claims. The 2007 Jefferson nickel is one such coin that has generated buzz. The P on the coin indicates it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and the term front small p refers to the placement and size of that mint mark. The large date label refers to the appearance of the date numerals, that is, the size or shape of the 2007 when compared to other examples. These differences can be subtle and often require expert eyes or magnification to discern. But here's the key point. Variety alone doesn't create value. Documented rarity and collector demand do. Now, let's talk about condition. Circulated extra fine means that this coin has been used, but hasn't taken quite as hard a beating as most circulated coins do. In extra fine condition, the coin's major design elements are sharp and clear with light, where apparent only on the highest points. You might still see some luster in protected areas and a relatively clean appearance overall. This condition is more desirable than heavily worn circulated examples, but it's still not uncirculated, and condition plays a major role in determining value. So where does the idea of an $80,000 value come from? That's a big number for a modern nickel, especially one that's circulated. And it's important to understand the difference between asking prices and actual market values. Many online listings, videos, and social media posts may show dramatic numbers, but unless those values are based on verified auction results, they're speculative rather than factual. Real value is determined by what buyers actually pay when a coin is sold at a reputable auction under competitive bidding conditions. In the professional numismatic community, two things are essential for establishing a high value: verification by third-party grading and documented auction history. Third-party grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, examine coins to determine authenticity, condition, and any recognized variety or error. If a coin's variety is genuine and noteworthy, these services will identify and label it accordingly when they encapsulate the coin in a protective holder. That certification adds credibility and makes it possible for serious collectors to bid confidently in auctions. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections bring coins to market, often receiving worldwide attention from collectors who compete to acquire rare and desirable specimens. What matters most in these environments is what the hammer price actually becomes. That is, the documented final sale price, with buyer's premium included. That is the gold standard for determining real value, not just speculative claims or wishful thinking. For most modern Jefferson nickels, even in extra fine condition, values remain modest. A circulated 2007 nickel that's common will usually be worth its face value or a small premium for collectors who want a nicer example. Even uncirculated coins from this era typically trade in price ranges that reflect general collector interest, but rarely in extraordinary amounts. So, how does a value like $80,000 enter the conversation? There are only a few ways a coin like this could ever approach significant value. First, the coin could be verified as a rare and accepted die variety, meaning that experts agree it was struck from a distinct die that produced very few coins, and that this difference is well documented. Second, the coin could be an error coin, such as a dramatic double die, off-center strike, wrong planchet strike, or other striking anomaly that is rare and visually significant. These types of errors can attract collector interest because of their uniqueness. Third, the coin could have historical provenance. For example, it could have been part of a famous collection with well-documented pedigree, which can sometimes add a premium in specialized auctions. Even then, values of $80,000 or more for modern nickels in circulated condition are extraordinary and extremely rare. The coins that reach into the five-figure range are typically error coins of dramatic nature or extremely rare varieties, with very few verified examples worldwide. Standard large date varieties, if they exist, are generally not accepted as major rarity categories with strong worldwide demand unless they have been studied, documented, and recognized by grading services and reference catalogs. Collectors and dealers work with population reports from grading services. These reports tell us how many examples of a certain variety and grade have been certified. When the population is very low, say a handful of coins, and collector interest is strong, values can rise. But in the case of the 2007 Jefferson nickel, the known populations of large date varieties are not so scarce as to push average market values into the tens of thousands, let alone $80,000, unless exceptional circumstances apply. So if someone tells you they saw one sell for $80,000, the first question you should ask is, where is the documentation? Was the sale made through a reputable auction house? Is there a certificate from a major grading service? Can you find a recorded result in a price guide or online auction archive? Without that proof, many six-figure value claims remain unverified and should be approached with healthy skepticism. That said, the thrill of discovering a coin that is different is part of what makes numismatics such an exciting hobby. Whether you find something in loose change at a garage sale or in a box of old coins, the first step is always careful observation. Compare your coin to trusted references, reputable books, grading guides, and online resources curated by experienced collectors. Look carefully at the date numerals, the mint mark placement, and any unusual features. Subtle differences can sometimes signal a variety, a die error, or something worth investigating further.